All right, so today we are diving deep into Trump's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Oh, wow.
We've got these excerpts from an article that highlight some of the most interesting moments, and I think you're going to be surprised by some of this stuff.
Well, what I find fascinating is Trump choosing Rogan's platform for this.
Right.
Rogan's podcast isn't just popular, it's huge.
Yeah.
Especially among young men who might not follow the news as closely as older generations.
Right.
This is a gold mine of potential voters that Trump wouldn't normally reach.
It's like going straight to the source.
Exactly.
And, you know, Rogan invited Kamala Harris on the show, too.
Oh, he did.
He did, but she declined.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that makes Trump's appearance even more.
It does.
It's intriguing.
Almost like he's putting a lot of stock in this interview.
Yeah.
You know, he even called himself a student of Rogan's at one point.
Wow,
I know.
that's a telling detail.
Isn't it?
It suggests that even someone like Trump, who often dismisses the media, recognizes the power of platforms like Rogan's.
Right, and to your point about reach, the interview went on for 3 hours. 3 hours.
Wow.
So long that Trump was hours late to a rally in Michigan.
No way.
Yeah, people were walking out. They were tired of waiting.
That is really something.
It is.
I mean, that detail about the rally, that's significant.
Oh.
It really shows how important this interview was to Trump.
Yeah.
Maybe even more important than a traditional campaign event.
Right.
Makes you wonder, is this how political campaigns are going to evolve?
It does. It really does.
Using these non-traditional platforms to reach voters, especially young people.
Yeah. So in terms of what Trump actually said, a lot of it was pretty familiar.
Right.
Claiming the 2020 election was stolen, criticizing the media and attacking his opponents.
Yeah.
The usual. He even said that this would be his last election if he wins. But he was vague about what he would do if he loses.
It's like a greatest hits album.
I know.
Of Trump's talking points.
It is. It really is.
And it's interesting, you know, in the context of Rogan's audience,
Yeah.
a lot of them might not be super into politics. So hearing these claims, even if they've been debunked, could be influential.
It's true. He's laying the groundwork with this audience.
Yeah.
And Rogan, intentionally or not, is providing the platform.
Yeah.
And then things get a little darker.
Oh.
Yeah. The article talks about Trump's increasingly hostile rhetoric on the campaign trail, including threats to jail opponents and revoke media licenses. It even mentions John Kelly.
Trump's former chief of staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calling him a fascist.
This escalation is concerning.
It is. It's not just about winning an election anymore.
Right.
It's about discrediting and silencing the opposition.
Right.
There's a real shift in tone here, almost like a line's been crossed.
Yeah.
And this plays into those concerns about Trump's dictatorial tendencies.
Which he denied in the interview, of course. Of course, calling himself the opposite of a dictator.
Of course.
Right.
But if you look at what he says and does, it seems to contradict that.
It does.
It creates this dissonance that's hard to ignore.
It does. Okay. Are you ready for a total change of pace?
Oh.
Because in the middle of all this talk about elections and fascism, the interview takes a turn into UFOs.
UFOs, wow, that's classic Rogan.
It is.
You never know what you're going to get.
You don't. You really don't.
He can go from serious to absurd in a minute.
He really can, and Veer it did.
So what did Trump say?
Oh, he talked about life on Mars, which Rogan quickly corrected him on.
Okay.
And even said he wanted to be a whale psychiatrist.
Oh, what?
A whale psychiatrist.
What does that even mean?
Because he's worried about the impact of windmills on whales.
Okay.
It was a bizarre moment.
It sounds like it, almost like comedic relief.
It was.
A break from all the serious political talk.
Exactly.
Showcases a more unexpected side of the interview.
And speaking of controversy, this wouldn't be a Trump interview without a historical figure thrown into the mix.
Who was it this time?
His comments about Robert E. Lee, well, let's just say they're not going to win him many points with everyone.
This is a recurring theme with Trump.
It is.
His comments about historical figures, especially those tied to the Confederacy,
always spark controversy.
they do.
And it's worth noting that Rogan seemed aware of this,
Really?
almost anticipating the criticism.
How so?
He did this little impression saying, Donald Trump wishes the South won.
Oh, boy.
I know. Okay, so one last point before we wrap up this section.
Okay.
Trump really went after Kamala Harris,
He did.
calling her not smart, and even saying the country wouldn't survive if she became president.
Yeah.
That's a pretty loaded statement.
It is.
And it fits into this pattern we've seen of Trump minimizing and discrediting his opponents, particularly women.
It's true, and it's ironic because at the same time, Republican leaders sent a letter urging Harris to tone down her rhetoric.
Yeah.
Why?
Because they said it might lead to another assassination attempt against Trump.
Wow!
But they didn't mention Trump's own heated language, did they?
That's a pretty big omission.
Isn't it?
It raises questions about the double standard for women in politics.
Yeah.
How their words are judged differently than men's.
It's definitely something to think about.
It is.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground already, but we've got more to unpack.
Okay.
We'll be back in just a moment to continue our deep dive into Trump's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Looking forward to it. You know, it's interesting to think about what this interview says about Rogan himself.
Yeah.
He's often described as this independent thinker, kind of a truth seeker, even though he's been criticized for platforming controversial figures.
Right.
But his listeners seem to really trust him.
Oh, they do?
They see him as authentic.
Yeah, and that's what makes this interview so significant.
Right.
When Trump goes on Rogan's show and repeats those claims about the 2020 election. Claims that have been debunked,
Yeah.
but are still being echoed by some.
Right.
It resonates with a segment of the population who might not be getting the full picture.
Yeah.
They trust Rogan, so they might be more inclined to trust Trump.
That's right. It's not just about Trump getting his message out there.
No.
It's about the platform he chose to do it on.
Right.
And the potential impact it could have on public opinion,
Yeah.
especially among those younger voters we were talking about.
It's almost like he's using Rogan's credibility to boost his own.
Exactly.
And the article even mentions how Trump,
Yeah.
despite not being known for his humility,
Right.
seemed to acknowledge the importance of being on Rogan's show.
Yeah, remember when he called himself a student of Rogan's?
Oh, yeah.
That was a very calculated move,
I think.
designed to appeal to Rogan's audience.
Totally.
Like he's saying, I respect this guy, I'm here to learn from him.
Yeah.
Which is a far cry from his usual stance on the media.
It really highlights how the media landscape is changing.
Doesn't it? It's like the gatekeepers of traditional media are losing their grip.
Yeah.
Politicians are realizing they have to go where the people are. And
Right.
increasingly, the people are on podcasts, on social media,
Right.
on these non-traditional platforms.
Which brings up some pretty important questions.
Yeah, what are they?
If this trend continues, how do we ensure accuracy and accountability in these spaces?
Right.
How do we prevent the spread of misinformation
Yeah,
when the traditional fact-checking mechanisms aren't always in
it's
place?
a good question.
How do we have informed political discourse
Right.
when the old rules no longer apply?
These are big questions
Yeah.
with no easy answers.
It's something we need to be thinking about
we do.
as we head into this election and beyond.
Absolutely. Think about it. You're someone who doesn't watch cable news
Right.
or read political articles.
Yeah.
You get your information from podcasts like Rogan's, and suddenly you're hearing Trump's message directly without any filter. That's powerful stuff.
It is.
The way we consume information, the way we engage in political discourse,
It's all.
it's all evolving so rapidly.
Yeah.
And this interview Trump on Rogan is a prime example of that evolution in action.
So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've talked about Trump's familiar talking points, the escalating hostility of his campaign,
Yeah,
the unique platform he chose for this interview,
right.
and the potential impact it could have on the election.
For sure.
Hopefully you, the listener, are starting to see the bigger picture here.
I hope so.
This is about more than just one interview.
Yeah.
It's about the future of politics and media.
Exactly. And as we move towards the election, it's crucial to be aware of these shifts,
Yeah.
to be critical of the information we consume,
For sure.
and to engage in thoughtful discussions about the future of our democracy.
We'll be back in a moment with a final thought to leave you pondering as we wrap up this deep dive. Okay, so we're back. And for this final part of our deep dive into Trump's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience,
Yeah.
you know, we've analyzed the content, talked about the context,
Yeah.
the potential implications.
Yeah.
Now, the big question,
What's bad?
what does this all mean moving forward?
Well, I think what stands out to me is
Yeah.
the strategic choice Trump made by going on Rogan's show.
Right.
It could signal a shift, you know, in how political campaigns target voters,
Yeah.
especially young people in future elections.
So you're saying we might see more candidates ditching the traditional media,
Maybe, yeah.
opting for podcasts,
essentially.
social media influencers,
Yeah.
these more unconventional outlets.
It's a possibility. I mean, we've already seen politicians using social media more and more
Right.
to connect with voters.
Yeah.
But podcasts offer a different kind of intimacy, longer conversations that delve deeper into issues. And Rogan's show in particular has that reputation for being unfiltered,
Yeah.
uncensored.
Right.
It gives politicians a chance to present themselves in a
Yeah.
way they couldn't on cable news, for example.
And for someone like Trump, who thrives on that unscripted style,
Right.
it's a perfect fit.
It is.
He can bypass the media he dislikes and speak directly to his base
Mm-hmm.
and potentially to a wider audience
Yes.
who might not be following traditional political coverage.
It really is a whole new ballgame.
It is. It is.
And that brings up questions.
yeah, like what?
If this trend continues,
Mhm.
how will it impact the way we consume political information?
Right.
Will it lead to a more informed electorate? Or
Right.
will it further fragment our understanding of the issues?
And how do we deal with the potential for misinformation on these platforms?
That's a tough one.
You know, platforms that don't always have the same fact-checking as traditional media.
Exactly.
How do we as listeners, as voters, navigate this new world of information?
Well, I think it comes down to being more discerning, more
Mhm.
critical
Yeah.
of the information we're consuming.
Right.
We can't just passively listen.
Right.
We have to actively engage, question things, and seek out different perspectives.
So we all need to become our own fact-checkers, in a way.
In a way, yes.
So to wrap things up today,
Yeah.
we did a deep dive into Trump's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Right.
We covered a lot,
We did.
from the content itself to the broader implications for politics. Hopefully this gave you some new insights to consider
I hope so.
as we navigate this crazy world of information and influence.
I think the key takeaway here
Yeah.
is that the way we consume political information is changing so fast.
Yeah.
It's more important than ever to be critical of the media,
Right.
to seek out diverse perspectives,
Mhm.
and most importantly, to engage in thoughtful discussions about the issues that matter most.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next time with another fascinating topic to explore.
Sounds good.
Until then, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay informed.